I happen to be by a university or whatever, and I have whiteboards. So I figure I'll do you know, an idle man's speculation here. I don't really like universities from personal experience, and because of just this. I'm using this to prop up my computer, but you see there's some pop and bottled water and a Sonic bag. Uh, what are you doing with your mind and yourself if you're sitting there eating hot dog and fries with your lecture or whatever? So, whatever. Anywho, just like to start off talking about uh, ideas about the Earth and its shape, composition, and again, I haven't looked into this and done the investigations proper for it, but it's one of those things that could be done, and maybe if I have the opportunity to later, I can. But anyway, there's this guy called David Hudson who kind of does the Ormus whole bit. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. Neat thing to check out. But anywho, to give you the skinny on Hudson, he was a cotton farmer in Arizona who, in his spare time, as a rich man's hobby, would go down and leach with cyanide some soils to get out gold. And during this process, you come across what they call ghost gold. It's like this white powdery stuff that shows up, but sometimes it just goes away, which is odd. But it's also ghost gold because you can't get returns on it financially. Well, you can, but only if you have a laboratory and know what you're doing. Um, anyway, shitty soils in Arizona. This stuff, it turns out, has a lot of nutrition for plants. But anyway, he had the time and the money, so he gets a sample, he takes it to the laboratory, right? And they stick it, his little sample in this dish. And then they have this electricity gun, and they're going to look at the spectrum of light that comes off of it and analyze it. And pretty much that's all it is. You shoot electricity out of here. It's like cold fire. Light gets shot out, and then you got like yourself a little table or some type of standards, and to be honest, it's as simple as mixing everything. And finding the corresponding frequencies of light, colors, and then I'll give you the percentages, blah, 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 blah. You get the idea. And anywho, it's coming back as like aluminum and silica, which is just odd because, to test that you have an element after you've isolated it, you can do other things. You can do chemical reactions, see how salts or acids react to it, maybe precipitate will fall or change color will happen, that type of thing, specific to each type of element. But you do that with this, and even though it read as, I think it was silica and aluminum and iron, it didn't test as that, and it wasn't that by any means. It didn't have the same color, the test for it failed. So he's like, oh, what the heck. But then, so he's reading the manuals about this stuff, and he came across the Germans who had better machines and like more power, so he went over there and did it. But what was happening was this little cathode here, this piece of metal, it's like a tungsten piece of metal that's shooting out the electricity. It started melting or whatever. So he had to get like better ones, and then he was talking to Russian people who said that, yeah, German's usually pretty good, but you need to run it longer. So he did, and then some weird stuff started happening. He'd run through just a list of elements, and until he got to like gold. Sometimes you go past it, I think. But anywho, he found a lot of this material in the earth, and he later started to think of it as what you could say, what he called orbitally rearranged atoms that had superconductive effects. And he said it might be a lot more prevalent than we know as a part of the composition of the Earth. And in our bodies too. And the thing about superconducting is, yeah, you don't have much resistance to electricity flow. So you can imagine good wires, you can imagine good communications, you can imagine different computers, you can imagine fuel cells. And these are things people are looking into as we speak. It can happen for a little while. And but you also think consciousness, because he analyzed like pig brains and stuff and found these elements, these monoatomic iridium and plutonium, rhodium, and gold in the brain. And he's just thinking, well, maybe this is how we are connected, how we can share thoughts over distances, sometimes anyway, how we have this sense of unity and that type of thing, how we can think and reflect and all that stuff. So that's just the basis of that. But what's just neat unto itself is that ties into alchemy, ties into spirituality in a sense. You got to preserve that holiness, that sort of connection. The awesome hardware which you have to maintain by software, diet, and habits, and everything. So that's cool, but also just in the shape or the design, I guess you could say, of the Earth. Because I want to do green, but I'll be a bit more realistic in my mind. I'll use red for the Earth because it's kind of a hellish place. All right, so there we go. I'm doing a disc. I'm not really sure. That's not my point here. But anyway, we'll go with that. And we say we have all these monoatomic elements down here chilling. And the thing about monoatomic elements and superconductors really is that you have a superconductor. Normally you can only get in when you go to like close to zero, absolute zero that is. And all these atoms stop moving rather, and orchestrate themselves so that greater flow can happen with it. But he's talking about these elements here, these noble metals and whatnot. They can be room temperature superconductors, which means they're going to be happening in our brain right now. And if you just have them sitting in the room, they'll be doing their thing. But anyway, with the superconductor, this is it starts becoming such a nice orchestrated unit. A superconductor is. So instead of that mess, you start having like elongated atoms is one way of looking at it. Or you could say a certain alignment of frequencies. You could say that too. And, the whole Ormus thing is like a high spin. So these little atoms start going view and a whole lot faster. And that's why they have like more energy and can do different things that it's kind of weird to us. But either way, in this thing, you have like electrons then that they call it like a sea of electrons. Starts acting like it's one electron almost because it's so unified, right? So that's chilling there, and it's such a cohesive, like pure unit that it resists anything around it. External magnetic field, putting electricity into it, things like that. And you can get little magnets and stick them up here, and they'll just like levitate. You go on YouTube and watch them. They go spin around this superconducting disc and stay on track. So it doesn't go far. You probably got the idea already, But you have the sun and the moon. Who knows? Maybe there's a lot of this monoatomic stuff chilling here on the surface, probably in the air too or whatnot. And then these luminaries are just maybe disks or something that are spinning around, levitating off of this force. That could be And that's something that could be modeled easily too. I mean, pretty much it's modeled right now on YouTube. You just have to paint one magnet like this moon and make it glow somehow. I'm not saying that's what it is exactly. It could be like some weird mesh materials, maybe some like opaque thing, maybe something that would use electrostatic tension or friction with the air to produce light, or it just focuses light that's there anyway. Who knows? But, that's the stuff that can be figured out. But the basic idea is demonstrated anyway. What you have to do is establish that there's these elements everywhere. And David Hudson's working on standards for monoatomic elements. But that's how you go about that. That's the next thing. So that's one idea. And, of course, this system is contained somehow, because to the best of our knowledge, you cannot have a pressure system next to a vacuum without some type of material or densely energetic medium in between them. So that's pretty much that idea. You get a bit more philosophical with it, and sort of be like, well, why is there any space at all? And what exactly is outside of this material? Because it is kind of an assumption to say that there's a void out there in space, because to the best of our knowledge, we don't know that space ever exists. You can't make it in a laboratory. You can make a near vacuum, but you never get everything out of it completely. And who's to say that there isn't subtle energies in there anyway when the atoms leave? So, in my mind, when we look at the design anyway, you have when you're building stuff as a human, this is all I can think of. You build concrete, what you take certain atoms, you rearrange them, get the proportions right, bam. You can do something, you can make a space to live in. Well, I think it's got to be something similar idea here. Maybe outside of here we have this like holy, sort of divine unity of the other and everything else, and whatever you could call it, like God the light or something like that. And then perhaps you need some disparity in order to make things levitate, in order to have a system, in order to have space in which to build. Because this whole thing is kind of like, there's still an up and down, and there's still a gravity, right? Because here we're talking about like levitation. When people hear levitation, they're like, oh my God, you're defying gravity. But it's like, what gravity are you even talking about? So I'm just going to leave it at that. There's a lot of ideas right there I'm not really pulling together quite well. But pretty much that's my idea of the world right now, is that we have something sort of divine or closer to it energetically in these monoatomic elements, which we find in our brains and perhaps in the soil and on certain plants. And then that kind of supports the sun and the moon. And in between we have like a space of disorder and chaos, or whatever we can call space, or just like non-special matter, ordinary things. And that kind of gives us the playroom between the two. And then the stars, who knows what they really are, but one thing I heard was that they're just little holes in the dome or whatever that let in light. Maybe this type of light out there or something. Who knows? That's a cool idea. But this stuff all needs further investigation. But people are always talking about, well, yeah, there ain't no curve, but what's the shape proper? And reading some stuff about geophysics, what you can do is you can have like the Earth medium. I'm gonna draw it as it is, not as it's pretended to be, supposed to be. And pretty much you can do it a few different ways, but one way is you just bombard a location um, with like electromagnetic pulses or even sonar pulses, just sound pulses, and you get the Earth like vibrating some certain way. And what you can do is you can do bigger things, and then you can have locations, sort of hot spots, where you can have like a standing wave hit. And yeah, that's what some people say. It's like, well, they can do this to the right spot, hit a fault zone, and then trigger an earthquake, things like that. But I'm not denying that or whatever. It seems to be plausible. I mean, this is just a scribble, but there's plenty of geologists out there who work with this stuff. And, well, again, it's one of those things that can be testable. You can go out and just start shooting sound at the ground and waters and seeing what happens. And, HAARP and all this other stuff, I think they already know. But also, I mean, this is just an idea. But to me, it's like, you have a drum, right? And if you hit the drum with your hand, that's going to make a certain frequency, right? And even if you have the same materials, but you have a bigger drum, it's going to make a different frequency, right? Or you have a weird drum, wouldn't play so well, but you have a square drum, unless it's made out of wood or something. But then, if that were a drum somehow, you'd get other frequencies. So you kind of get what I'm saying, right? And again, I haven't really looked into speakers and all this other stuff so much. I want to, and hopefully someday, before too long, I will. But that's my idea. Is like you're shooting down these frequencies into this Earth. And the idea is, by what data you get back from the vibrations and the resonance of it, wouldn't you be able to tell something about the shape of it? And of course, you'd have to test that or whatever. You'd have to get down some math or something by experiments. You have a plate, and then you subject it to this frequency, and then you watch how the standing waves go and everything else. And then you come up, you do it with a whole bunch of different things and frequencies there, and then you come up with some law or something that you test and it works every time, and then you apply it to the big picture of the Earth, and you see what happens. I mean, see what feedback you get. And of course, nothing beats just going there and figuring it and looking. But I think this would be like a sure way, because I bet you one thing it would definitely do is it would vibrate differently than the ludicrous ball Earth. And again, you don't really need to fly with Bruce, because you just go to the ocean and there you go. However, I find it really interesting. So that's pretty much it. Have a good one.